Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I'll be making one of my main arguments for the Hadith preservation and the reliability of Islamic historical records, the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, what is the logic of the argument? How is the argument structured? There are more than 50 prophecies of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our Hadith that have been fulfilled after the compilation of a Hadith. So these were not. I'm not talking about prophecies that happened before the compilation of a Hadith, because someone could claim that the event happened earlier, and the prophecy was made up later. Secondly, these are too many to be accidental. If these are one or two, right, the situation would be different. But these are 50. There's a clear-cut pattern here, and there are enough examples to support that pattern. More than that, this cannot be accidental or chance or guess or luck, because they are 50. Thirdly, these prophecies are extremely counterintuitive, so no one would make them up. More than that, a lot of these no one would even conceive. Fourthly, fourth point, if people were trying to promote Islam basically, right, and they were dishonest, they wouldn't make things like these up. If they received this, they wouldn't transmit them, because, and you will see this by looking at the prophecies, because these are so counterintuitive and so ahead of their time that these would cause people 1400 years ago shubuhat or doubts. The fact that our scholars, our Sahaba, our Tabe'in, Taba Tabe'in transmitted these ahadith shows that they were honest and reliable, and they were not making these things up. Now, there are about 50 prophecies, right? So I think I've already explained why it can't be guess. These have to come from a source, a common source, right? And Occam's razor suggests that there has to be one source. Why would be there can't be multiple sources? Because of Occam's razor, that would be multiplying entities beyond necessity. And I mean, think about this: how rare it is for someone to actually make accurate prophecies about the future. Extremely rare, right? So the most sensible explanation is that these go back to a one common source. In all of the hadiths about prophecies, the only common source is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these hadiths go back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Point proven, right? I don't think there's any way around this point. Now, this argument mainly depends on one thing, and one thing only: the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's have a look at 4 prophecies. I'll link all of these in the video description. First one: the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "There will come a time when there will be no one left who does not consume riba, interest basically, and whoever does not consume it will nevertheless be affected by it." Now, think about this prophecy, right? There are 4 reasons why this prophecy is actually mind-blowing. 1. At the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, riba, interest, was being discouraged. It was discouraged by Christians who had banned interest. Firstly. Secondly, Islam came and banned interest itself. So this cannot be a case of self-fulfilling prophecy. Thirdly, at that time, and this is one of the evidences for why it couldn't be made up, right? In the ancient past, the only people who consumed interest were money lenders, not the general population, as this hadith clearly implies. Yet, when looking at bank accounts, interest-bearing bank accounts, we can see that this prophecy clearly stands. This wouldn't have come to minds of people then, because so few people consumed interest back then. Fourthly, this hadith also mentions that people who don't consume interest will nevertheless be affected by it. How could anyone conceive this 1400 years ago? The interest rates on the loans that a country has taken directly affect the value of its currency, and that affects the life of people all over the world. Who could have conceived this 1400 years ago? Who would make this up? And if people were dishonest, why would they transmit this? Right? I think those points are self-evident with this hadith. Now let's look at a second prophecy. Basically, it's a long hadith, but the relevant part is this: the land of Arabia reverts to meadows and rivers. Basically, Arabia will become green. Arabia was a desert 1400 years ago with barely any water, right? Who would make up the prophecy that Arabia will become green? Who would conceive this? And this would cause people massive doubts. 1400 years ago or even 300 years ago, looking at a desert and claiming that all of it will become green. Of course it will. Who would transmit this? Or who would make this up? Right? Yet we have references. I have references linked from NASA showing that this was true in the ancient that this prophecy is clearly being fulfilled. There are techniques such as center pivot irrigation, which have led to Arabia becoming greener, and Arabia is naturally becoming green as well. More than that, this prophecy says that Arabia will return to being green, meaning it was once green before. This is also proven. Now, think about this. Who would make this up? Who would even conceive this point? Would it even come to the imagination of people something like this 1400 years ago? I don't think so. And if the scholars are authenticating and transmitting hadiths like this, it shows that their complete faith in Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and their sincerity. It has to show. Because if someone is trying to promote Islam, right, and they are dishonest, why would they preserve something like this, which would cause so many doubts to people? So it clearly shows, it clearly proves my point, and it also shows the sincerity of Sahaba. Third prophecy. Basically, this is predicting abortion. A woman will be taken and her stomach ripped open, so that basically what is in her womb will be taken out and discarded. This is clearly about abortion, right? Now, this prophecy is a huge proof for the truth of Islam for numerous reasons. Think about this. 1400 years ago, who would think about abortion? Why would anyone conceive this? If anyone tried to cut the baby out, right, it would lead to the death of the woman at that time. It always will. But this hadith does not mention that they will just kill her, right? If that was what this hadith is prophesying, then it would just say that women will be killed, pregnant women will be killed. But that is not what this hadith is saying. This hadith is saying that what's in their stomach will be taken out and discarded. Now, who would conceive this 1400 years ago? Think about this. And this is such a massive trend nowadays. Inshallah, I'll make a more detailed video on this prophecy. I did make one before, but I think this prophecy needs much greater attention than it is getting. Now let's go to a fourth prophecy. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri Raziyallahu anhu said, reported, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, by the one in whose hands is my soul, the hour will not be established until predators speak to humans, until a tip of a man's whip and strap of his sandal speak, and the thigh informs him of what his family did after him. Now, there is actually progress on the part about predators speaking, and there is evidence that that technology is being developed. But I'll go to the two prophecies for this for brevity here. Until the strap of his sandal will speak to him. Who would make this up? Who would conceive this 1400 years ago? Yet we can see with companies like Nike that they have running shoes basically, right? That they have basically voice in them, and that voice speaks, tells people about the time it is, how much time they have run, and etc. So that prophecy is clearly fulfilled. Who would conceive this 1400 years ago? Think about this. Who would make this up? If someone is trying to promote Islam, why would they authenticate this? Wouldn't this cause doubts to people? Wouldn't this go against the supposed aim of promoting Islam dishonestly 1400 years ago? Think about this. So I think this prophecy is a clear-cut proof for my argument and for the truth of Islam as well. I'll just go to one more prophecy here. A man's thigh informs him what his family did after him. Now in Arabic, let's suppose something is mentioned, right, like thigh or head. It could also refer to something that is on the thigh or on the head. This usage is even in the Quran as well. So what this hadith is basically saying, something on the man's thigh will inform him what his family did after him. This is the mobile phone, right? This can plausibly be said to be the mobile phone. It is kept on man's thighs, and it will literally inform people, or the voice in it will, whoever's voice it is, what his family did after a man leaves his house. It can be used for other things for as well, but it can be used for this thing as well. Now just think about this. Again, I am repeating this point because this is important. This prophecy, there is no way around this prophecy. Who would make this up 1400 years ago? Who would even conceive this? Right? And if people are trying to promote Islam dishonestly, why would they transmit it? Think about this. If the Christian polemic or the Orientalist polemic is that the scholars are basically making up a hadith to promote Islam is correct, who would make this up? Who would transmit this? Not only they wouldn't make this up, they wouldn't transmit it if they were dishonest. Yet, by transmitting a hadith like this, it proves their sincerity and their honesty. There is no way around this point. This actually, and because there are so many hadiths like this, they have to go back to a common source, which in all those hadiths is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, really think about this. This argument not only proves the truth of Islam, it proves the reliability of hadith transmission, the unlikelihood of fabrication, and the sincerity of the scholars and Sahaba and Salaf. There is no way around this argument being a huge proof for the truth of Islam and for the reliability of a hadith. So, in the end, I think you have seen why this argument is such a massive proof both for the truth of Islam and for hadith preservation. I think probably this is as strong or nearly as strong as the stylometry argument for hadith preservation. Inshallah, I'll keep making more content like this. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum.